Welcome back to Sports Law Media here on YouTube. It's you guys, Sports Law. I do apologize about the previous issues. We were doing the Inside the Diamonds, the college baseball and college softball picks. I was having some technical difficulties, so I had to end that one with part one. But I'm here to resume part two of Inside the Diamond, college baseball and college softball picks. Can y'all hear me out there in YouTube land? Again, I do apologize for the technical issues, but we are going to finish with part two of this, and it's going to be more college. We've already done all of college baseball, and we've done a lot of the college softball games. So we're going to continue by going through the rest of these college softball games, making picks. So again, I apologize for the issues. Hopefully, y'all will rejoin me. I do appreciate each and every one of you. Okay. So next on this list, you have Belmont versus UIC, Utah State versus Kansas, Wichita State versus East Carolina, Brown versus North Florida, NIU versus Purdue, Northwestern State versus Houston Christian, Holy Cross versus Norfolk State, Monmouth versus Charleston, St. Thomas of Minnesota versus Portland State, Middle Tennessee versus Kennesaw State, FIU versus Delaware, Iowa versus Ohio State, SFA versus Nichols, Texas A&M Corpus Christi versus UIW. You have Notre Dame versus San Diego, Georgia State versus Winthrop, Robert Morris versus Western Carolina, Maine versus Idaho State. And then you have Southern versus Northern Colorado, Western Michigan versus State versus Liberty, South Florida versus Memphis, Mercer versus NC State, Rutgers versus Maryland, Toledo versus UNCW, Utah Tech versus UNLV, Georgia Tech versus Clemson, Riverside versus CSUN, Virginia Tech versus James Madison. And the games that I mentioned, I have South Dakota defeating Northern Colorado, Austin Peay defeating Western Michigan, Valparaiso defeating Southern Illinois, Marshall defeating Canisius, Louisville defeats Ball State, Youngstown State will defeat Longwood, Northern Kentucky will defeat Delaware State, Liberty will defeat Jacksonville State, South Florida will defeat Memphis, NC State will defeat Mercer, Rutgers will defeat Maryland, Toledo will defeat UNCW, UNLV will defeat Utah Tech, Clemson will defeat Georgia Tech, UC Riverside will defeat CSUN, Virginia Tech will defeat James Madison. I have Nichols defeating SFA, Delaware defeating Purdue will defeat NIU, Wichita State will defeat East Carolina, North Florida will defeat Brown, Kansas will defeat Utah State, and Belmont will defeat UIC. I'm having technical issues, so I'm trying to get through the rest of this quickly so we can finish this. Anyway, next on the list of games, you have Southeastern Louisiana versus East Texas A&M, UTSA versus Tulsa, Florida State versus Coastal Carolina, Florida A&M versus Jackson State, Pittsburgh versus Stanford, Virginia versus North Carolina, Presbyterian versus Jacksonville, Hawaii versus UC Davis, Minnesota versus Indiana, Illinois State versus Evansville, Florida Atlantic versus Charlotte, LSU versus Tennessee, Chattanooga versus Central Arkansas, Bowling Green versus Charleston Southern, Oregon State versus Oregon, Louisiana versus Oklahoma. Then you have North Texas versus UAB, Samford versus South Alabama, St. Francis versus Texas State, UCF versus Oklahoma State, Southern Miss versus North Florida, Georgia versus Arkansas, Lamar University versus McNeese, Missouri State versus Western Kentucky, Northwestern State versus Houston Christian, Texas Ole Miss, Iowa State versus Baylor, SFA versus Nichols, Montana versus Seattle University, Grand Canyon versus San Diego, Sam Houston versus UTEP, BYU versus Arizona, and Southeastern Louisiana versus East Texas A&M. In the games I listed, I have East Texas A&M defeating Southeastern Louisiana, BYU defeats Arizona, San Diego will defeat Grand Canyon, Sam Houston will defeat UTEP, Nichols will defeat SFA, Montana will defeat Seattle University, Ole Miss will defeat Alabama, Baylor will defeat Iowa State, Houston defeats Texas Tech, Houston Christian defeats Northwestern State, Oklahoma State will defeat UC. You have Oklahoma will defeat Louisiana. Oregon will defeat Oregon State. Central Arkansas will defeat Chattanooga. Bowling Green will defeat Charleston Southern. LSU will defeat Jacksonville. Hawaii will defeat UC Davis. Virginia will lose to North Carolina. Pittsburgh defeats Stanford. Coastal Carolina will beat Florida State. Florida A&M will defeat Jackson State. Tulsa will defeat UTSA, and East Texas A&M will defeat Southeastern Louisiana. Now, I have one more set of games. We'll get through this together. Thank you for sticking with me. I do appreciate it. You have Louisiana Tech versus New Mexico State, Utah versus Arizona State, Hawaii versus UC Davis, Portland State versus Boise State, Sacramento State versus Oregon, CSU Bakersfield versus Long Beach State, North Dakota State versus UNLV, Maine versus Idaho State, Kentucky versus Auburn, Texas versus South Carolina, Wisconsin versus UCLA, Duke versus California, ETSU versus Winthrop, and North Carolina A&T versus Elon. So in those games, I have New Mexico State defeating Louisiana Tech, Utah defeating Arizona State, Hawaii will defeat UC Davis, Portland State loses to Boise State, Oregon will win over Sacramento State, CSU Bakersfield will defeat Long Beach State, North Dakota State will defeat UNLV, Maine will defeat Idaho State, Kentucky will defeat Auburn, Texas will defeat South Carolina, Wisconsin loses to UCLA, California loses to Duke, ETSU will defeat Winthrop, and Elon will defeat North Carolina A&T. So there you have it. That is my college baseball picks, my college softball picks for games which will take place tomorrow, March 6th, 2026. Normally I do this on Fridays, but again, I'm doing this today because I have some early commitments tomorrow. Anyway, I do thank you for joining me for this broadcast, even though it was broken up into two parts. I do greatly appreciate it. We will have another episode of Inside the Diamond, college baseball picks and college softball picks next week. It'll either be on Thursday or Friday when we do the live stream, but all games that we talk about will be on Friday for whatever the week we talk about. Next month, or actually late this month or early next month, we will start a new one that deals with Major League Baseball and Minor League Baseball picks, and it's going to be called RBI, Major League Baseball picks and Minor League Baseball picks. We will have additional live streams with live sports action coming up. When that applies, I'll let you know as soon as I know something. We'll have additional college March Madness live streams coming up to where I will make picks regarding all of March Madness. So we've already started with 2 of the March Madness stuff with the division, but we will have a lot more of that coming up as well. We really appreciate it very much. Also, thank you again for tuning into this broadcast today. If you will, please hit the like button, please hit the subscribe button, and please hit the notification bell so you can be made aware of when I'm doing these live streams, when I have sports education videos, again, when I broadcast live, or when I have breakthroughs in the sports world. If you wish to subscribe to the channel, you can do so in 2 ways. One, you go to www.youtube.com, the slash symbol, the at symbol, SPORTSLOV, or you can go on the YouTube search tab and type in Sportslov Media as 2 words. SPORTSLOV is the first word, media, MEDIA, as the second word. You'll know it. I'll have Sportslov Media burned into a basketball as my avatar. I'm also on Twitter X, and my handle there is at BobAmin16. That is the at symbol, BOBAMIN 16. Excuse me. Again, I apologize for the technical issues I've had today. I'll try to see if I can figure that out for next time. And I do greatly appreciate you.